This is a story about the time where I almost died. So, as you can tell from the title, today's video is just a little bit different than my usual educational stuff. I shared the story as it was happening over on my Instagram stories, so follow me there if you want to see more spur of the moment kind of things. But basically, I felt like I needed to come in here and tell the full story, and I also know some of you were curious, so hopefully I can fill in the gaps in this video. And by the way, I want to make a disclaimer that if you're afraid of flying or heights or anything like that, maybe don't watch this video, maybe skip this one, because I don't want to be responsible for making that worse for you. I know I don't have that fear, but I was pretty scared at the time. So, proceed with caution. But also I can tell you that I was actually adding this up on the flight. I've been on 49 flights at the moment, which is annoying the crap out of me. Like, it only went south once. So, do with that as you will. But for those of you who want to hear the whole story, buckle up or fasten your seatbelts and let's move on to the meat of the video. So it all started on November 10th, 2022, when I went on a flight from Lisbon to Terceira in the Açores. It's an island in Portugal. And I was going with my boyfriend on a 3-day small little vacation where everything we wanted to do was sit back, relax, disconnect, and do literally nothing. That wasn't the case. I'll just tell you that. But everything was going well, apart from me realizing I lost my ring and I had left my sunglasses at home. But apart from that, everything was going well until we were approaching the destination and we hit some rough turbulence. And I'm talking rough. I mean, at one point, I was completely out of it. I was too busy freaking out in my own head to notice anything that was happening. But I know my boyfriend counted 3 seconds of us just falling from the air, or so it felt like. The best I can explain it is if you've been to Disneyland, to the Tower of Terror attraction, it felt like that, but kind of in real life, where you feel like you're going down and your stomach is going up, and it's not good. I don't think the turbulence stopped at all until we landed, quote unquote, because as we were landing, we were like 1 meter from the ground. We were landing and then we just went back up. So we hear the pilot on the speakers saying we couldn't land because of the winds. We actually checked on our weather app and the wind was up to 100 kilometers per hour or something crazy like that day. So understandably so, we couldn't land. So he said he was going to go around and try one more time, but he couldn't. So instead, he came back on the speakers and said something, Ponta Delgada. And as you probably can tell, we were all kind of freaking out. And, speakers on airplanes, if you've ever been on an airplane, you know this, like you can't understand half of what they're saying. But I understood those last 2 words, and that's the name of a different island. So I was like, sorry, what the hell is happening? And I was like, are we landing somewhere else, or are we stopping there, or what's happening? And a million thoughts started rushing through my mind, like, are we really going to the wrong island? Like, how are we going to get back to the right island? Where are we going to stay? What about the hotel and all that stuff? But honestly, I think I can speak for the entire flight when I say that we were just happy to be landing somewhere safely and that we would worry about the rest. So we finally landed on the wrong island and they kept us inside the plane while they were speaking to Ryanair's headquarters in Dublin. By the way, I didn't mention this, but it was a Ryanair flight. And then a bit later, they come back on the speakers and tell us that they're going to send a rescue plane at 5 p.m. that day. Mind you, this was 10 a.m., so we had a while to wait. But in my head, it was like, it's fine, at least we're going to get to the hotel in time, right? So we get off the plane and they tell us to stay close and that if we wanted some meal vouchers to go to the line at the desk. So we stood in that line for what felt like forever. And in the meantime, we were calling the hotel, telling them we would be late and everything like that. And once we got to the front of the line, that's where shit hits the fan. So we get to the front of the line and they tell us that the flight that they initially told us was at 5 p.m. that same day was actually going to come at 8 a.m. the next day. So almost a whole 24 hours after the time that we were supposed to land there in the first place. And they also told us we had two options. We could either get a refund on the original flight, or we could get on that flight the next day and they would put us in a hotel for the night. And I mean, my original flight had only been 15 euros, so with that, I couldn't even get like a rusty Airbnb. So of course we took the hotel room for the night and the meal vouchers, so we gave them our names and we got the vouchers and we went to grab some food. Turns out the voucher was 4 euros per person, which at an airport gives you a big fat nothing. And we literally had to combine both our vouchers to split one single meal. But don't worry, because when they called us back in line, we were in for a great surprise. Not only did we get a hotel for the night, a great hotel, might I add, we got lunch for that day, dinner, breakfast the next day. They took us to and from the airport, and they literally took care of us. Turns out that tiny little voucher was only to shut us up for a few minutes while they were figuring stuff out. It wasn't supposed to be our whole lunch. Thank God. So they loaded us up into 2 buses and they took us to the hotel where an all-you-can-eat lunch was waiting for us. And honestly, this shit was way more fancy than anything I'm used to, than any of us were used to for that matter. I mean, they literally came to our table to refill our drinks as many times as we wanted. Let that sink in. And then after lunch, we went for a walk because we had a lot to digest, literally. And then we had dinner where the same story repeated, all you can eat, all you can drink. And then comes the next day when a bus is waiting for us at 6 a.m. in the morning to catch a plane at 8 a.m. But when we get to the airport, we realize that the flight is only at 9:20 a.m. and that we have literally 3 hours to kill at a tiny little airport in the middle of nowhere. But hey, they kept us entertained, making us go from one line to the other to print our tickets, and then they told us that the tickets we had from the previous day were the ones we were supposed to use, and it was all a big mess. So yeah, we got on a plane. It was a very short 25-minute ride, and this time with no complications, and we made it to our destination safely. Once we were there, we actually walked to our hotel, which was a 4-kilometer walk or something like that, because we had to wait literally 2 hours for the next bus, so we decided to walk. And then we went to the beach for a little bit, we went to the pool and the hot tub, and we did have a great rest of the day despite all the craziness up to that point. And when we thought things were finally good and finally settled, Ryanair threw us another curveball. We couldn't check in online. But honestly, in hindsight, that was the smallest little hiccup we could have. They fixed it, and we checked in at the airport and everything went fine. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can say you get what you pay for with Ryanair, but honestly, I always loved the airline for some weird reason, and the way that they fixed all their problems in this trip only made me love them and respect them even more. So yeah, that's my crazy travel story. I hope it kept you entertained for a little bit. Now, I just hope that the next flight I get into in a couple of weeks actually goes on extra smoothly and without any issues. And hey, if this didn't put you off and you want to get the chance to travel more often, I do a lot of videos about freelancing which can allow you to travel even more. So make sure to subscribe and maybe watch some other videos while you're at it. I'll see you guys next time.